Hello, this is Erica Norton, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. I'm very excited to have with us today Attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She owns a family and real estate law firm out in the Worcester area, and she and her team are fantastic. And we're very lucky to have her with us almost every week to talk about topics that we need to know about. They're going to save us a lot of money. Knowledge is power, and this is what we're getting here today. Thank you so much for joining us, Nicole.
Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about probate. And it seems like we talk about this a lot, but there's always something that pops up, and it's not a simple topic. And I think you were mentioning when you have three wills that are all signed the same day. Is that right?
We do have that case right now.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, what do you do?
well, that's the question. And it's a question yet to be determined. But the reality is, we don't know. Three different wills, all dated the same day. Do those wills trump one another? Which order were they signed in? Are they valid wills? So these are all things that we need to look at as attorneys and as the court, because the court is not going to make a determination until they have a full hearing or everyone agrees upon it. And even then, I don't know that the judge is just going to say, okay.
So how does that happen? Is the like if you had three wills for the same person, I'm assuming, and they're all dated the same day, do they get notarized? Were there attorneys present?
Well, that's the problem about doing it yourself. So the reality is, these were done by the decedent. Um, Whether or not he had legal advice, whether or not he used I don't know. Doesn't really matter at this point. Unfortunately, the decedent's passed away, so there's no changing it. And there's witnesses, and there's two witnesses, and they're not a notary, and it doesn't have the proper format. So again, the court is going to have to consider whether or not these are even valid, which means those two witnesses are going to have to come in and testify for beginners.
Wow, I mean, that's amazing. And you hear about that happen. People don't want to pay an attorney, so they just go and they get something that they can cut and paste their name on and maybe make a few changes in their own words. Maybe not, the right legal way to write it. They haven't thought of all the consequences because words are consequences in these documents, right?
Absolutely, it's a legally binding document. And there's a reason why, will has very strict guidelines in Massachusetts as to what makes it a valid execution of that document. If they're not followed, then it's not going to be held valid.
I mean, that's a really scary situation because yeah, I know that when we went over my will, which 5 years ago, I think, when I went through a divorce, I was just shocked by the amount of questions that you have over so many different areas of my life. And then when you get to those different areas, there are so many backup questions for who you're leaving what to, including your children and your pets. And then there's your big assets and that sort of thing. Your little assets that might be just nostalgic things that you want to leave to somebody in particular. And if you don't have that written down and done correctly, it could be a free for all. The government could take it, or they just try to find a next of kin, right? That maybe you've never even met.
Absolutely. And I have that issue as well right now. I have somebody that didn't have a will, and we're going out to, second cousins once removed. That's where we're at. And I don't know that the decedent knew some of these people. Some of them she knew. Some of them literally just came out of the woodwork and said, "Hey, I'm pretty sure I'm entitled." And guess what? If you're able to tell me the relationship and the people, then yeah,
And some of these people would make whoever died roll in their grave if they got their stuff.
that is absolutely true. And unfortunately, that's kind of the ones that I'm talking about right now, is the one that didn't have a will, really said, I'm going to give everything I own to this one person. But you didn't. And unfortunately, you passed away without it. So now we're going to go to what the law says, which is not who that person was supposed to get.
And that's really too bad because a will is a basic document that everyone should have and that probably less than 50% of people actually have.
Right. Because they all think, well, it doesn't matter. Is it my spouse or my kids getting it? They're getting it anyways. Why do I need to bother to waste my time to do that? Not necessarily true. So again, we're going to look at a lot of circumstances and figure it out. But sometimes you're right. Sometimes you're dead wrong.
Well, maybe not the word dead. Was the pun intended there?
It was.
Excellent. That's a great pun. I mean, not to laugh, about it's no laughing matter though. If you have worked your whole life to have what you have, and you should be able to give it to who you want to give it to. Now, some people, I mean, have you run into this? I feel like there are some people like, my mother is going to be 75 and well, she does have a very simple will, but she doesn't have the rest of the stuff. She doesn't have, the health proxy, the stuff that you need when you're alive, but you know, too out of your mind to actually make decisions. And so, I mean, there's a bunch of those documents that people don't have. They just think that the planning of life is just basically she's planning her funeral, and that's it. That I'm like, whoa, what's your plan? What's your transitional plan? Well, I paid on my funeral, and well, I'm like, no, that's not that's the big transition. There's another transition in there, probably.
Absolutely. And that is something that people don't think about. And then ultimately, if you don't have one or three of these documents, guess what? You're going to be in court. So we're going to be in court if we don't have a healthcare proxy. We're going to be in court and we're going to be asking for a guardian. If you don't have a power of attorney, we're going to be in court and asking for a conservator. If we don't have a will, guess what? We're going to be in court and trying to probate your estate so that we can give it to the appropriate heirs. So they're all very important documents and they're so simple to just get. And it's frustrating to me because I'm like, guys, even if you get it and I'm changing it, who cares? It's so easy for us to change. Just get it done.
Well, I mean, I think that it's because of fear. I think people don't get these documents because of fear. You sign someone over a power of attorney. You have told me in the past, and I thought it was so intelligent of you to say this, is that give someone their power of attorney while you're still in your right mind. Because then you can look at your bank accounts, you can see if they're going to be honest. Because if they're already starting to skim off of your accounts, then you have to switch it to somebody else. You might be in an accident where you're incapacitated and you can't make those decisions. And now this person is just spending all your money that you might need to actually take care of yourself because healthcare is super expensive, whether it's just, a senior that needs to go in there or into a nursing home, or, maybe they need an assisted living memory care facility. And that could be for young people and old people if you get in a car accident and hit your head or something. I mean, there's a lot of situations where you really want to test those waters and you want to have those documents put in place and, test out the people that you trust.
Absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, we never know. We just heard it the other day in the news. Somebody's driving down the road wrong way and a trooper dies as a result of it. Guess what? Unfortunately, these things do happen. I'm sure he wasn't planning to go home that day and die. He's off work. Like this stuff happens, and it's just so imperative that people have this planning in place. If nothing else, to not have to have your spouse or your significant other or any family member just going, hey, Nicole, what am I supposed to do? I'm kind of a fish out of water. I can walk you through all of that. But guess what? You might not have any authority. And so then you're coming to me and I'm going, great, but Sally over here gets higher priority than you. And you're like, but I'm the closest one and they don't even know that person. And sometimes that's exactly what happens.
Because it's a hierarchy, right? I mean, it's if you didn't have a will and you had kids and a spouse, they would give everything to your spouse, correct? Or if it wasn't the kid's parent, they would split it or something like that. Is that you clear it up? I'm not the attorney.
If it's an intact family, so the mother, father, and children are one unit and they're all together, then yes, the spouse would receive 100%. If they're not an intact family, so Erica's on a second marriage. So in that particular case, if you had another child or there was another child of this relationship, that's what is called a not intact family. And so then in that particular case, it would be spouse and the children. So it really depends on what that looks like.
I mean, and that's a great way to do it. I guess it's terrible if someone's only been a spouse for 6 months and then you kind of wonder if there's some foul play there. But I mean, there's so many jokes when it comes to this stuff. But I mean, yeah, it can be very complicated. It's really important to consult an attorney. Uh, I found that it was not as expensive as I thought it was going to be to get the 5 documents I needed, for both the living wills and the living documents, health proxy and POA and all that stuff, in addition to the will, which is usually the document everyone just thinks about that they need. Um, I was wondering though, what do you do for the people who just, and I know we've all dealt with this before, but they know they've been given, the doctor has said, listen, you need to get your affairs in order. And they just don't because they don't want to live like they're dying. They don't want to think about it. And as a result, that they do end up dying and it's a mess. There's probate court and there's a lot of things you can do, right? So that you can receive the assets easier, put things in a trust first. And I mean, I know somebody who just had their father pass last year, and he had to go into debt to pay for the funeral, and then he was waiting a year to have access to sell the house. And his dad had also a new, very young wife who got, whatever she got. I don't know what it was, probably half. And then, but he was wealthy. So, but they had to wait a year and he had to go into debt to pay for all those funeral services. So, I mean, there's an easier way, right?
There is. And that, again, obviously planning is beneficial. And it's not only beneficial to, your loved ones that pass, but the reality is, again, you might be really rolling over in your grave going, why in the world is this person doing this? Why? And obviously the answer is because you didn't prepare. So we all have those situations. And again, people do come out of the woodwork. So have it done and have it done right. I mean, it's just so simple because everyone will go online and they'll look at LegalZoom said this and look at they filled out these forms for us and great, but an attorney isn't looking at it and it's not being executed properly. And if you don't know what a self-proving affidavit looks like or is, then you shouldn't be doing it. That's the bottom line. Because without that, you're going to be bringing in these people in to testify, and maybe they'll say the right thing, maybe they won't, maybe they have no clue. And again, your wishes aren't met.
I mean, that is the issue. I mean, everyone looks at AI today like it's going to save them a lot of money. It's the end all be all. There's a lot of cool pictures you can make, but yeah, it doesn't replace the legal mind and the experience of somebody that has been to court and they can see the judge is not buying this particular story, so maybe let's change our tactic a little bit. You can't just plug in a formula and know exactly what's going to happen. And I know that from being in court with you, kind of projecting we think something's going to happen this way because it was great the first time and then it didn't really turn out the same way the second time because the other side got a a flashier attorney. So, but whatever that, I don't think all of that stuff is fair, but you can't always count on something. And you certainly can't count on a computer that isn't even in the courtroom and can't, read the room, so to speak.
Right, exactly. I mean, we've all heard about the attorneys, and they are out there that have gotten disbarred because they used AI. Well, great. And you think that an attorney who should know better, who shouldn't be using AI for those purposes, you think that your AI is going to be smarter and is going to do a will and is going to properly execute it, that requires, oh, wait, human beings, not AI, to execute. So again, we have to think about the overall process. And again, what is it that you really want? Because it's good for some things. It's not necessarily good for legal stuff.
I mean, if you start there, but then, kind of get a framework of what you're looking at, I guarantee you, then you bring it to an attorney and they're going to poke a ton of holes in it. And you're going to be glad that you you talk to an attorney because they know what happens when things are done wrong because they've had to live through all that many times. And it might be, that somebody else that put their client is going to court, over a will that, these people sitting at the kitchen table did themselves, or, they used an attorney that just didn't care and was doing it for $99, or, maybe they did it for AI. I mean, there's always going to be a problem with that. You have to use, somebody that specializes in just a couple things. Don't go to those shops where, oh, we handle everything and there's one guy sitting at the desk. There's no way they can keep up with all of the new laws that come into place in all these different areas of the law. I mean, am I right?
It's true, but then you also got to know the size of the firm because sometimes there's 100 attorneys, and they really can do all of the things. But you have to look at what does this person really know? What is their skill set? What is their education? How many cases have they been in front of a judge on? Have they actually probated the estates if we're talking about an estate? So it's not only the estate planning, but have they actually gone in and gotten their document approved by a court?
I mean, that's so true too, because I feel like there are attorneys that uh, are prepared to go to court every time if they need to. And then there are some attorneys I think that just really want to avoid that because it's very time consuming. They've got a large workload. They kind of just like to one and done a lot of things as quick as they can and not have the file open forever. And unfortunately, with the kind of work that you do, a lot of the files do stay open for over a year, depending on what you're dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to be prepared for that, and you got to be prepared to be able to go into court and defend your work. And I agree. You have the real estate people of the world and the estate planning people of the world, and they never want to see the inside of the courtroom, but they don't understand that sometimes the documents they create are not good. And we now have to deal with it, and we have to address it with the court.
I mean, it's like you're building a car, but you don't ever turn on the engine and drive it, and then you realize a bunch of things aren't connected. And it's not going to go.
Absolutely.
Hmm. So, are there I know we've kind of run the gamut on a lot of different pieces of the topic here with probate. Um, is there anything that you had in mind that you wanted to mention today that we haven't talked about?
I think it's again just knowing what you want. People always think that it's very expensive. It's not. Yes, it does cost money, but the reality is that peace of mind afterwards. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had clients that are like, oh, I'll just deal with it later. I'll deal with it later. Well, there's also time limits. So if you don't file it with the court in a timely manner, sometimes they're now trying to sell the property 5, 6, 7 years down the road. And what do you mean I can't sell it? Well, you don't own it. Your late husband owns it, but it's mine because I'm the spouse. Well, not necessarily. So again, it's something that you don't want to have to probate that far out where now you're doing everything and you're scrambling when you thought, oh, I just got it because I'm the spouse.
I mean, those are really good points. And as far as like the cost goes, if you think about how much time it takes to put together the will and the living documents, and you pretty much can estimate what it's going to cost to put it all together and to put it together right. But if you don't put it together right and you go cheap in the beginning, which, save yourself $500 or $1,000, depending on, I don't know what you're doing, depends on what your estate is and if you're setting up a trust and like there's a lot of different things. Whatever it is, it's going to cost the people that are inheriting a lot more money later to fix it. I mean, it could cost 40, $50,000. It just really depends. People get into these long court battles to try to straighten out what wasn't put together correctly, which all the answers could have been, all the questions could have been answered originally in the first document if it was done right. And now you've got to spend all this time, emotional energy, money on fixing it. And there's just really no reason for that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, sometimes people are like, well, yeah, but I don't worry. I'm not sick. Again, we don't know when our time is up. And so it's just from my perspective, the moment you have children, and I'll say it every single time, but the moment you have children is the moment you should have an estate plan done because your children matter and where they're going to live after you've passed away matters. So we need to start with that. And then, the moment you have assets, even if you don't have children, when you start having real assets and you have your house, okay, no brainer, you have a house. You now need to have a will. Like these are milestones that everybody should go, I need to do it. And then more importantly, you need to check it every 5 to 10 years because they're going to be outdated.
I mean, certainly if someone tells you to get your affairs in order, you should get your affairs in order. I mean, whether just do it and then live like you didn't do it and be happy and try to be as happy as you can for all the days of your life, but still there's a difference in that and also being responsible.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Nicole, as always, we really appreciate your being here on the show. The information that you give is invaluable. I encourage everyone to give you and your office a call, um, and just have a conversation. I think a lot of the times the first conversation is even free. Is that right?
Your initial meeting is, yes.
Right, the initial consultation. And so it doesn't hurt to talk to somebody. And I'll say this, when I had my first initial consultation, I was shocked. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I couldn't answer a lot of your questions about my own personal life. And I mean, a lot of people are in that situation, and so if you're married and you're going through a divorce, or you're going through a breakup and you have kids, you're not even married. Sometimes you don't know all the information financially or what's been assets you might have, and people do a lot of things in secret, and it's good to find that information out, and then you can make the decision whether you want to move forward with an attorney or not. But I'll say every single time, best decision of my life. So thank you very much, Nicole, for your great work.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, and thanks everyone for watching. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great day.